This week on ANN, Adventist World Church President Ted Wilson offers prayer and spiritual counsel to national leaders in Papua New Guinea.
A call for tech innovation at this year's GAIN conference.
And the family of an Adventist doctor who went missing in Ukraine planned a service to celebrate his life.
These stories and more, coming up.
This is ANN, a service of the Seventh-day Adventist World Church. Thanks so much for joining us this week.
First in the news, Adventist World Church President Ted Wilson's visit to the South Pacific region this month was marked by evangelism, talks with government leaders, and hundreds of decisions for Christ. Record in Focus has this report.
Pastor Ted Wilson, President of the General Conference, met with the Prime Minister of Papua New Guinea, as well as the Opposition Leader and Speaker of Parliament, offering prayer and spiritual counsel to each. Local church leaders took the opportunity to have Pastor Wilson dedicate a new midwife training facility at the rapidly growing Pacific Adventist University. At a series of meetings in the PNG capital, Port Moresby, an estimated 15,000 people turned out to hear Pastor Wilson preach on the theme of immortal decisions. The events were marked by enthusiastic singing, hundreds of decisions for Christ, and a series of baptisms by local pastors. The presidential tour is continuing in Solomon Islands and Fiji.
Author and marketing consultant Martha Gabriel says innovation is the key to relevance in the new attention economy, where messages compete for relevance. Her keynote speech at the 10th Annual Global Adventist Internet Network Conference at the U.S. State of Maryland challenged church, tech, and media experts to keep aiming for the next level of technology. Ideas and information, she said, are no longer enough to succeed. Instead, today's organizations, including churches, need people who make things happen. For Adventist pastor Sam Neves and a development team from the church in England, that meant not waiting for the church to get behind a comic book-style trivia game called Heroes. The first Adventist game for iPhone and iPad was on display during the GAIN conference, pitting teams from each World Church region against each other in a marathon test of Bible knowledge. Now, the Adventist World Church's Youth Ministries Department is partnering with developers to help fund an Android version of the game.
GAIN Conference brings the church's top tech and media experts together from around the world to discuss emerging trends and best practices. But it's also an opportunity to recognize leaders who use technology to broaden the scope of the Adventist mission and ministry. Brazilian businessman and philanthropist Milton Afonso received this year's NET Award from Adventist World Church President Ted Wilson. Afonso was an integral part of establishing and funding Adventist media outreach in South America.
This year's GAIN conference also featured a presentation from Antonio Monteiro, whose release from the Lomé civil prison last month ended nearly 2 years of detainment in the West African nation of Togo. In 2012, Monteiro and 4 others were imprisoned on the charges of conspiracy to commit murder in the case that captured the attention of Adventists worldwide. Monteiro told GAIN participants that the ordeal both tested and strengthened his faith.
Quelqu'un a dit, mais pasteur, pourquoi Dieu t'a envoyé en prison?
Someone asked me, why did God have to send you to jail? God did not send me to jail. No.
Lui, il est Dieu, il pouvait contrecarrer ça.
He could have
Mais il n'a
stopped
pas
all
fait, donc
this.
c'est lui qui t'a envoyé en prison.
But so since he could have
No.
stopped all this, he's the one who
Dieu ne m'a
have
pas
sent you
envoyé
to
en
jail.
prison.
No, he did not send me to jail, I
Mais
said.
il a permis que je vienne.
But he allowed me to
Pour
come
une raison
for
bien
a very
spécifique
specific reason
que vous et moi ne comprenons pas maintenant.
that you and me cannot understand now.
Et un jour, j'ai écrit une lettre.
But one day I wrote a letter.
J'ai dit au président d'une division,
I wrote to a
Mais
division
écoutez,
president.
moi, je ne suis pas un prisonnier.
I am not a
Je
prisoner.
ne suis pas en prison.
I am not in
Mais je
prison.
suis en mission.
I am in mission.
Et je tiens cela. Rien ne peut changer cela.
And I hold fast to this and nothing can change it.
After Monteiro's presentation, church communication and tech leaders who had helped raise awareness of the case surrounded the Monteiro family for a special prayer of thanks. The moment was a tangible show of support from the Global World Church family behind Monteiro and other Adventists who are still facing arbitrary detainment.
And now, an update on the situation in West Indonesia, where Adventist churches and schools are serving as shelters in wake of a series of major volcanic eruptions that displaced more than 30,000 people. A state of emergency in the country was lifted February 15, but local observers say minor eruptions are still occurring. Mount Sinabung in North Sumatra has erupted intermittently since September, with activity intensifying in January. Families who live in a 5-kilometer or 3-mile radius of the volcano are being warned not to return home yet. Adventists volunteering at the shelter say families are anxious to begin replanting crops. More than 26,000 hectares of farmland in the region were destroyed by ash and mud, jeopardizing a major source of income.
A youth outreach project is spreading across Europe with events already held in 11 countries. Called Relay, the project invites young people in the church's trans-European region to share their faith in the same way a relay racer would pass on a baton. Training for Relay consists of 3 core elements: Adventist beliefs, youth outreach, and foundations of discipleship. Afterward, young people have the opportunity to practice what they've learned by hosting outreach events at cafes, shopping malls, health expos, and other venues. Organizers say hundreds of Adventist youth have graduated from the program.
And finally in the news this week, the family of an Adventist doctor who disappeared in Ukraine is planning a service to celebrate his life. Dr. Jay Sloop was in Ukraine last year to help local Adventists establish a life center in Kiev. He was director of health ministries for the church's Upper Columbia Conference, based in the U.S. state of Washington at the time. No leads have emerged in this case, despite extensive searches and an ongoing investigation by Ukrainian police and the U.S. Embassy in Kiev. The April 26th service comes almost a year after Dr. Sloop's disappearance. His son, Greg Sloop, announced the event on a family blog.
Coming up, the challenges of governing a pluralistic community.
When I first felt called to be a minister, I didn't want to be a typical pastor with a suit and a tie. One of the things I appreciated most about Christ was his ability to defy convention. Once, when I moved away from a place where I was pastoring, one of my friends said, "We're going to miss you. You're so unusual." I take that as a compliment. I'm someone who likes a challenge. I love to test my limits. I've been running for more than 35 years, most days of the week. I love to run, especially in nature. It's time alone with God where I can recharge. I run first thing in the morning so I can prepare emotionally and spiritually for whatever I might experience that day. I find my greatest fulfillment in relating to people who aren't Adventist or even Christian. We have to meet people where they are. That's what Jesus did, and it's still our responsibility today. I have friends who are Christians and atheists, gay and straight, old and young, of all races and ethnicities. I'm a biker, a runner, and a pastor. I'm extremely blessed. My name is Stephen Chavez, and this is my whole life.
Welcome back. The Pew Research Center's Religion and Public Life Project usually highlights growing religious intolerance in the Middle East and Central Asia, but a new country is on the radar in this year's annual report. Melissa Reed has more.
The Pew Research Center's Religion and Public Life Project issued its annual report on the global state of religious freedom in January. We've cited this report on ANN before, usually to highlight the growing trend of religious restriction and discrimination in the Middle East and Central Asia. This year's Pew Forum report came with a surprising conclusion, however. The study found that the United States places a moderate level of restrictions on religious practice compared to other countries in the world. According to Pew, the U.S. saw a marked increase in hostility toward religion starting in 2009. This level has remained consistent in the following years. What does this rating actually say about the state of religious freedom in the United States? At first glance, one might assume this is bad news for religious folks in the land of the free. But that may not actually be the case. Especially in comparison with the rest of the world, the United States still has fairly robust protections for spiritual practice. Something to keep in mind about the United States, says lead researcher Brian Grimm, is that there are structures in place to address grievances. If a church community feels like it's experiencing discrimination, it can file a complaint with the U.S. Justice Department. Most low-level countries do not have such oversight mechanisms available. Grimm also explained that local government decisions affect the country's rating quite a bit. Countless zoning laws, rulings on property rights, and restrictions on tax dollar use shaped the U.S. score. These weren't always clear-cut cases of religious restriction either. Sometimes there's a clear intent to try and keep a religious group out, Grimm said. Sometimes it's more of a financial decision. Another interesting category of restriction has to do with taxes. If religious groups receive federal funding or tax-exempt status, both proselytizing and political activity are limited. For example, groups that get government money to run services like disaster response or relief work aren't allowed to try and convert people as part of those programs either. The Seventh-day Adventist Church has always supported this clear separation of church and state, but in the strictest sense, it can be categorized as restriction on religious organizations. Still, the U.S. does have its share of cases of discrimination, government and otherwise. Workplace religious discrimination continues to increase. Conflicts over the construction of Islamic community centers have reached from New York to Tennessee. And this spring, the Supreme Court will hear a set of controversial cases about whether the government can require organizations and businesses to include access to birth control if they provide insurance to their employees. Overall, Grimm's characterization of Pew's research suggests that the moderate restrictions on religion in the United States are part of a complex puzzle of governing a pluralistic political community. The right to free exercise of religion may seem simple in principle, but in practice, it involves figuring out how one group's rights intersect with another's. On balance, that may mean more freedom, not less, is afforded to all.
The Adventist Development and Relief Agency in the United Kingdom is celebrating 100 years of fundraising. Donations to the humanitarian agency help support medical intervention, education, emergency response, and income generation programs worldwide.
This year, we are celebrating 100 years of ingathering in the British Union. Since 1913, Seventh-day Adventists have collected from door to door for people in need. The funds collected have been used to help provide medical services, education, emergency response, and lift people out of poverty. Funds were first collected under the banner of Worldwide Advent Mission, but now it is ADRA UK. Your help this year is needed more than ever. Could I challenge you and work together to raise £1 million this year? With £1 million, ADRA could start a volunteer program to involve you and continue to do its work to empower the poor around the world with the resources, skills, and opportunities to live a better life with dignity and hope. What do you think? Can we do it?
A new feature about Christian films and video projects highlights creative people using media to share Christ. Arnaud Leclerc introduces the series.
Have you ever watched a good TV program or film but wish it had more of what you believe? Have you wondered where you can find such a material? We are pleased to be able to share with you that Adventists around the world are very busy with production that can nurture your faith and interest others who are searching. A&N's brand new feature, Keep It Real, will not only keep you updated on what's new, but we will review these productions for you. We will interview the filmmakers, the producers, and directors, and ask them why did they choose the particular content and how they went about producing it. We will also review other popular Christian films and documentaries. We would like to invite you to share in the discussion. Share with us and other viewers your favorite online video that have inspired you. Join us on a journey around the world as we share in the creativity of many talented people who are using media to reach people for Christ. In the next few weeks, we will be sharing some of the following exciting productions with you. Henry Stober, filmmaker and photographer from Germany, traveled the world for 5 years, gathering amazing footage of nature for a film about God's creation. Go beyond the ordinary and learn about an exciting award-winning television series produced in Australia. Beyond the Search is a documentary series that explores some of life's biggest questions, an epic story that gives new perspective to a world in crisis. Filmed across Europe, Africa, Asia, the Americas and the Pacific, Beyond the Search gives a new perspective on current world events and our role in them. Keep It Real embraces student production. For example, the students at Montemorelos University in Mexico were involved in a production contest organized by an international film festival. There was only one problem. They had 48 hours to produce a short film, and 8 of those hours fell during the Sabbath, Saturday. We look forward to hearing the story of faith and seeing the end result. Open Secrets is an international collaboration by Adventist media entity, led by the German Hope Channel Studios. This new series about the Book of Revelation was filmed on location in Germany, South Africa, and Bolivia. The aim of this series is to show the Book of Revelation as a positive message in our postmodern world. These are just few of the many upcoming projects that we will be sharing with you on Keep It Real every week. Media is a powerful tool to influence thought and bring about change. Be careful how you consume it. Use a discerning mind and do not accept or believe everything you see or hear. Learn to distinguish truth from errors. And for producers out there, always remember, keep it real.
Still ahead, a smartphone app for Global Youth Day.
But up next, the key to effective children's ministry.
A child wondering where her next meal will come from. A woman without a home, forced to sleep in the street. A forgotten grandparent with no familiar face to brighten their day. A family unable to care for their everyday needs. People that we pass every day but have stopped seeing. It's a human problem. Today or 2,000 years ago, in Uganda or America, China or Brazil. Instead of passing by, what would happen if we, Seventh-day Adventist youth, stopped and helped? If each of us in our own corner of the world reached out to those in need and made a difference in being the hands and feet of Jesus. On Sabbath, March 16th, 2013, we tried an experiment. Instead of going to church, we, the Adventist youth, went out and lived the sermon. In our towns, in our countries, in our world. In 24 hours, 8 million youth made an impact in others' lives, bringing the gospel to our communities through acts of kindness. This year, we can do more. We spend most of our Sabbath studying what it means to be followers of Christ. It's time to take one Sabbath and live out the sermon. This year, we can touch a life. We can transform a community. We can change the world.
Welcome back. Effective children's ministries depends on immersion in the world of kids, their games, their music, and more. Linda Ko explains.
If we really want to be effective in our ministry to children, it is essential that you make the effort to learn and understand the world of kids. So why should we do that? Well, one, as kids see that you're interested in what interests them, they will in turn become interested in what interests you. Namely, God and the Word, they'll become interested to listen. It also provides you with a pathway right into their hearts. And it's a lot of fun as you work together with them. So how can we enter into the world of kids? One, be involved with kids. Just spend time with them, playing, talking, and having lots of fun. Look out for children around your neighborhood. in the stores, in the parking lots, or wherever they are. Be interested in kids' things. Know what are their favorite foods, what television programs do they watch, read kids' books, listen to the types of music that they listen to, or what computer games do they play. The latest toys that are available, and what do they play. Yes, get to talk to them, because through this avenue we are able to build excellent relationships. We need to start where they are and lead them to where you want them to be.
On Global Youth Day last year, hundreds of thousands of Adventist young people skipped church to be the sermon one Sabbath in March. On this week's Tech Corner, Daryl Gungadu previews a new smartphone app to help engage even more young people during this year's event.
Oh, hi. I just want to show you a little bit about the functionalities of the Global Youth Day app. Now, this app is available for the iOS device, so Apple devices, and also for the Android platform. In the Global Youth Day app, you're able to watch live the program on March 15. But more fun, you'll be able to contribute your own activities. To do that, you would just hit Contribute on the app. You could select then either a picture that you've already taken in the gallery of your phone, or you could actually take a picture straight from the camera. Once the picture is taken, you can write a little comment about that particular image and hit the Contribute button, and it'll show up on the global website of Global Youth Day. That website is accessible directly through your smartphone, but you can also access it by going to www.globalyouthday.org.
Adventist Special Needs Ministry integrates members with disabilities into a worldwide community of faith and outreach. Jonathan Kunteroff has more.
As we go to so many places around the world, we can find people who need special needs. For that reason, we have a special booklet here, Special Needs Ministries. Who are those people who need special needs? Some of our members have disability in hearing, or in moving, or in seeing. You see, some of them are blind or partly blind. We believe that as a church we have to minister to them. Therefore, we have a special needs ministry under the umbrella of personal ministries. This is something important so that our members who have special needs can be nurtured. They are not only nurtured, they can be inspired and also motivated to do evangelism. And we have a special guidelines like this that our members can use, or especially for Sabbath school and personal ministry leaders, to use for the training of those people who have special needs. And by doing this, we believe that our members who have special needs can be blessed, they can be nurtured, they can be trained to win others. And something interesting, when they come, they are not only coming alone. Usually they come with friends, and more people will have the opportunity to know the message. Let us be involved to bring more people in witnessing activities.
Now let's turn to David Trim for a look at Adventist history. This week, a fire at an Adventist health institution in Battle Creek sparks dissent.
Welcome to This Week in Adventist History. On February 18, 1902, Battle Creek Sanitarium was totally destroyed by fire. The sanitarium was the flagship Adventist health institution, having been founded over 30 years earlier. But in the 1890s, it began to become increasingly secular in its ethos as a result of the leadership of Dr. John Harvey Kellogg. Ellen White warned church leaders that there was a danger of the sanitarium losing its Adventist character. The fire was seen as a judgment from God. Unfortunately, the rebuilding of the sanitarium became a divisive issue, with White urging church leaders to move institutions out of Battle Creek, where she felt Kellogg's influence had become unhealthy, whereas Kellogg was determined to rebuild on a grand scale in Battle Creek. In the end, the dissension over the sanitarium was one of the catalysts for the disfellowshipping of Kellogg 6 years later in 1907. The sanitarium ceased to be owned by the Adventist Church. On a more positive note, 8 years before the fire, but halfway around the world, on February 22nd, 1894, the first Seventh-day Adventist missionaries to West Africa, Edward L. Sanford and Carl G. Rudolph, arrived at Appam in what was then called the Gold Coast, today's modern country of Ghana. Today there are 400,000 Seventh-day Adventists in Ghana, spiritual descendants of those first missionaries. That was this week in Adventist history.
Thanks for watching ANN. Join us next week for more news from the headquarters of the Seventh-day Adventist World Church.
In the meantime, find us on Facebook. You can connect with other Adventists worldwide and find links to more stories, photos, and videos. Just visit Facebook/Adventist News.
Our good news for this week comes from Deuteronomy 28, verse 13. The passage says, "The Lord will make you the head, not the tail." If you pay attention to the commands of the Lord your God that I give you this day and carefully follow them, you will always be at the top, never at the bottom.
That's our program for this week, and remember, you can always visit news.adventist.org for daily news and videos. Until next time, God bless.
Take care.